Welcome to the Leadership in Land podcast, where we talk about what actually moves the needle in a land business. This show isn't about get-rich-quick schemes or magic mail pieces. It's about leadership, systems, decision-making, the stuff you figure out after your third or fourth pricing mistake, or maybe your first "this deal looked great on paper" moment. Tune in with me in the episode today, and let's dive right in.
You're listening to the RE Tipster Podcast Network.
Okay, so quick question for you. Have you heard of our Skool community? I just want to make sure to invite you to check that out. If you're listening to this episode, it's actually kind of old, to be honest with you. And so if you want our latest, if you want our greatest content we're putting out, real conversations about leadership, decision-making, building a land business that actually works in the real world, get inside our Skool community where you get access to the free leadership course, plus bonus episodes, discussions, and insights that honestly just don't make it onto the podcast. So if you're serious about this, you want to learn more about leadership, get in the community, check it out, leadershipinland.com or skool.com/leadershipinland. All right, let's get in the episode. Hey there, Leadership in Land family. Hope you're doing awesome. Dave Denniston here with you with wanting to do something today that, as far as I know, nobody else in land world is doing. When I first got into this business all the way back in 2017 or something like that now, I'm losing track of the time. I really felt people held back on the full story and felt that people weren't real with the certainly parts of it, right? Like I went through the Podolsky program and they would say, oh yeah, 300%, 400% rate of returns are just super duper common. But that never took into consideration, what are you spending for software? What are you spending for staff? How much is it costing you to send out marketing, costs of debt, costs of equity splits? If you choose to sell a note, the haircut on that, all of those different kinds of things are certainly the stuff that I feel is not talked about enough. I was inspired by Pete. I can't remember the dude's name, but he has the Land Profit, but you probably know who I'm talking about. He's gotten quiet here a bit lately. What I thought was great about Pete and his wife is they had these monthly reports for a time period that allowed you to see into their land business in terms of gross profit. He didn't talk about anything besides that, but basically what did they buy it for? What did they sell it for? How much money did they make on a property from that sense? But never told you how much did a perk test cost? How much did it cost for clearing? What was the cost of debt? What was the staff costs and stuff like that? So I love that. And so many other people love that. But I really thought, how can I do something different that nobody else is doing? That's why I said, okay, let me be vulnerable. Let me be open and transparent. And my goal is to show you guys quarterly, if at all possible, what's behind the scenes, what's happening with cash flow. Revenue is great. In some ways, it's a vanity metric. Certainly accounting is great. When we look at things like revenue, gross profit, and net income. But what gets missed so many times is people focus on the income statement or maybe the balance sheet is how much are you truly getting paid in a year? Maybe you're adding to your portfolio in equity, maybe you're not. When we look at profits, so many of those things are what happens after a sale, right? That doesn't tell you necessarily all of the messy middle and what happens. And so one of the things I do is track cash flow. And I think this might be an interesting exercise for you to understand, for others to understand. Maybe you do something like this yourself, and I'd love to see more of this talked about in the land industry because it is sorely, sorely needed, I think, to really understand, hey, here's what a land business looks like. Here's a healthy business. Here's an unhealthy business in the context of cash flow. And not just revenue, not just gross profit, not just net, but in terms of a cash flowing business. All right. So with that, let me share my screen, and this is going to be a long explanation, everybody. Those of you that aren't in the Leadership in Land School community, maybe you're listening to this in audio. I'm recording this in January. I think we're going to have it come out in April or something like that. So it'll be a few months old by the time you get there, but I'm going to be sharing this spreadsheet. Make sure that you get into the community, get plugged in on Skool. So you just go to skool.com, Skool, and look for Leadership in Land. That's where you'll find us, and that's where you'll be able to watch and see what I am sharing here. So here we go. All right. So what you're looking at right now, what I am looking at is a spreadsheet. And on this spreadsheet, I have date, which has the months all below it. Revenue, which has all of the numbers below it. Expenses, which has all the numbers below it. Land purchases, the numbers below it. EBIT, and net cash flow. Those are the main columns I'm going to be talking about. On the far right-hand side of this spreadsheet, we have our goals and how did we do relative to our goals in 2025. So let me spend some time talking about that a little bit first. So one of the things I do as a leader for the team is look for win-win situations. And to me, cash flow is like the ultimate win-win situations, right? Like after revenue, which of course is very, very important, minus what's been spent in terms of staff, what's been spent on marketing, what's been spent on perk tests, what's been spent on mailers, partner splits, hard money loan, interest, hard money loans getting paid back, anything and everything you can think of, right? What do we have left as a company? Because my goal is I want to get money out of this company. I don't want to just reinvest all the time. I want to get money into my bank account to get other assets and do other stuff. So my goals for the year of 2025 was, number one, revenue wise, get $3.5 million, hopefully $4 million in revenue. And then on a monthly basis, average $50,000 a month of cash flow, or quarterly, $150,000 over the whole quarter. If you take a look at this spreadsheet here with me, you'll notice 3 out of the 4 quarters, we didn't get it. We were averaging $27,000 a month in Q4, $58,000 we did in Q3 a month. We were negative $6,000 a month in Q2, and we were positive $27,000 a month in Q1 of 2025. So there's only one quarter that we achieved the goal, which, it's things are still very much cash flow positive. If you looked at the year, it was a total of $317,000, which if you add back what I paid myself as a salary, which was about $65,000, we're about $382,000, which frankly is pretty good, right? I mean, how many people would kill to have that much cash flow being able to come to them? That's pretty amazing. But to be really healthy, I really think we needed to be at $600,000 for the year altogether, which we were far, far, far below that, plus what I pay myself, right? So that would have been $665,000 altogether if we added it up. So we were far, far below where I wanted to be. Now, revenue-wise, if you look at that, which here is column B in my spreadsheet, we ended up at $3.3 million, which was shooting distance to 3.5, right? If we were able to push another couple of sales through, medium-sized sales, we could have achieved the goal. And as I talked about in the prior video, man, it was a struggle last year. Obviously, we had some good results. It's certainly not like we were hurting or did badly, but it just wasn't what I wanted it to be and the goal that I set for the team. And so this year, we're really rejiggering some stuff and we've reset the goals, same quarterly goals we had last year. Revenue goals, I'm pushing it up to 4 million because 3.5 isn't even 10% growth, right? That's like less than 10% growth. So we got to get to 4 million in revenue. We have a lot in inventory to get there. We're starting off well, maybe not fantastic, but starting off well in 2026 with number of sales coming through. So I'm crossing the fingers, hopeful and excited that's going to happen. Revenue-wise, if you look at us, look at my business, we have a lot of terms, which generally about $100,000 is what it has been. Going into this year, I think we're probably going to be closer to $80,000, $85,000, $90,000 a month, something like that, because we've had a lot more cash sales and focused a lot more on cash. And so our terms have been dropping down slowly but surely. Revenue-wise, if you look at what we had, our worst month was November of 2025, $136,000, which is certainly nothing to shake a stick at. It's a lot of money that came in the door. Our best month, guess what, was the prior month of October. It's like some of this stuff got sucked out of November because we had a fabulous blowout October, $521,000 a month. And one of the things, if you know me, I like to do is to celebrate wins. And man, I just thought if we could recreate October month after month, we'd be a $6 million revenue business, and our net income should be like a net cash flow should be $1 million, with that kind of business. So that's shows me the potential, right? Like, hey, if we did it once, we can do it again and again and again, but we have to set ourselves up to do that. The average of 2025 was something like $270,000, and certainly we're going to need to get more than that to hit to $4 million. So December was pretty solid historically for us. I would say November, December, January, February generally have all been pretty slower months, which then the springtime, April, May, and then the falls, September, October, generally are some of our best months. I think some of this is seasonality with tax returns in the spring, and then people late summer being like, gosh, I want to secure a place so I have something for next year. That's my guess. I don't know. Just seems to be some seasonality to it, but something's happening every month. So certainly if you look at us, one of the categories I have on here is expenses. All right. And I'm going to talk about that here shortly and break that down for you. And total of $2.8 million about in expenses. That's a lot, right? You break that down on a monthly basis, we're at about $232,000 a month in expenses. Now, again, when you look at accounting versus cash flow, those are two very, very different things. When I'm talking cash flow expenses, I'm talking all in, right? Not just staff, not just what you paid for mailers, not just software, but also things like paying off loans, also things like paying out partners, also things like buying properties, which all can be cash flowing items that don't necessarily show up on your income statement, depending upon when they happen and when you sell stuff and stuff like that. And so here I'm just showing all in. Here are my expenses, which on a monthly basis are a lot. And the more we sell, the more they are, right? Because we have partners, we have hard money loans getting paid off and stuff like that. Like October, for example, we had $385,000 of expenses. So the expenses rise to a degree with revenue, right? And some of it depends on how much mail we're sending out and what's our credit card bills and stuff like that. For us, historically, we usually don't mail in November, December, and we don't mail in May and June. And the reason being that a lot of us, including myself, we're taking time off over the holidays. I know some people love to power through. God bless you. I like to take things a little bit easier, play catch up, focus on follow up, get everything tied up for the end of the year, focus on business planning, stuff like that.
Hey, real quick, I want to tell you about something we're opening up in April that could honestly change the trajectory of your land business. We're putting together a new round of small mastermind groups inside the RE Tipster community. These are groups of 4 to 6 land investors who are actively in the trenches, working deals, solving problems, and helping each other move forward. I've seen these groups turn into real friendships, business partnerships, and in some cases, completely changing how some people operate. Applications are open on April 1 and are going to stay open for about 3 weeks. We're We're going to be finalizing groups at the end of April, and they're going to start meeting on May 1. So if you want to be included, you'll have to do at least one of two things. You'll either need to be a member of the Land Investing Masterclass. Check it out at landinvestingmasterclass.com if you're not already a part of that. Or you need to be a user of Stride CRM, and you can check that out at stridecrm.co. So if you've been on the fence about joining either one, this is a great reason to get in right now. Again, you can learn more by going to landinvestingmasterclass.com or stridecrm.co. And one more thing before we get back into the show, I want to share something I've been testing in my own business. So if you're trying to grow without hiring a bigger team, this is worth paying attention to. I've been learning from Callan Faulkner, who teaches how to actually build AI systems into your operations, not just for content, but for things like follow-up and internal processes. And one of the things I implemented this past fall that I learned directly from her is called the Brand Guardian, and it's helped me keep everything consistent without having to oversee every detail myself and without having to hire another person. It genuinely changed how I think about scaling. And the cool thing is, she's actually running a live training called the Effortless Business Bootcamp, where she's going to walk through a lot of this stuff step by step. If you sign up through the RE Tipster affiliate link, I'm also going to host a private group call where I'll show you exactly how I'm using this in my own business. You can only get access to this if you sign up through my link. And good news, this bootcamp is not expensive at all for what you're going to get. If you want to check it out right now, you can go to retipster.com/A2A. Again, that's retipster.com/the letter A, the number 2, the letter A. All right, let's get back into the episode.
Whereas in May and June, I choose to, again, want to follow up with people, but also a lot of my staff are starting to take summer vacation. I'd like to take summer vacation, right? So if we've generally done that, that means, hey, by July and August, things are pretty slow. Great time to take vacation when things are relatively less. All right, so that's expenses that you're looking at here. And the next column, land purchases and liens. Now, this amount is included within the expenses. I will say this isn't actually all of the land that we purchase. It is the majority of it, but it's not all of it, because sometimes we have equity partners or hard money lenders or people like that they'll send money right to title. And so this is literally what came out of our bank account for buying properties. Because of our lumpiness of mail, most of that is concentrated April through October. Most of it is during that time period. Altogether, $1.7 million went out for land purchases last year. You could probably add another 500, 600K to that from some of those other sources. So maybe we're at 2.2, 2.3 million, something like that, which obviously, hey, if we're running a land flipping business, you got to keep acquiring land, right? It is a real cost to the business. This other thing here says EBIT, earnings before interest and taxes, which I like to call it that. It's really cash flow before purchases and debt, basically. So kind of like what is the revenue minus our core expenses? Those core expenses being some of the usual things you would think about: staff, mailers, like our credit card bill, recurring charges, simplifile fees, all that kind of stuff. Also, partner payouts are included in there too, but hard money loans, interest payments, stuff like that are not. So that's what I call EBIT. So that number was 1.2 million last year, which was very, very substantial. So my thought being, hey, if we eliminated buying properties, what could cash flow look like just operating the business on a very minimal scale? So to me, that number is about 1.2 million bucks. So that's why I like to track it as just something to consider if I decide to make the business a little bit smaller. Net cash flow. So revenue minus all those cash flow expenses. You can see here we have a whole variety. Our best month, guess what? Our best flowing cash month. That $521,000 in revenue led to $136,000 in cash flow. Again, that's after purchases and everything like that. All right. Our worst month was the month right after, where we had an $80,000 credit card bill because of so many mailers we bought. Negative $68,000 for that month. So this is a lumpy business, and that shows you for us, that and then everything in between. January was negative cash flow. May was 32,000 negative cash flow. June was negative 20,000 cash flow. And then there's plenty of great months, 90,000, 60,000, 60,000. So you can see we had some months that were really, really strong. And my goal going to 2026 is to make that more consistent. It's still going to be lumpy, of course, because depending on how much we get in sales, but I really want to get that average, if at all possible, of 50,000 a month positive cash flow. So cross the fingers. Hopefully we can do that this month and next month and March. And you guys will be here to help watch the journey with me. Now, the next thing I want to show is what actually happened in the month of December and to help break that down for you a little. So $260,000 in rev, where that came from, we had 2 really nice sales, total of $100,000 came from those. And then we had a bunch of small stuff here and there. So one of these here was about $80,000. And this sale was one where we bought a property in November, had a neighbor that said, hey, I want it. So we sold it to them. It was like a $20,000 spread altogether. So, we weren't burning the world with that, but hey, nice quick turn. That was fantastic. Then we had another sale, which was in Arkansas, which was sticking around about 5 months, something like that. Cash sale, went through a realtor, was fantastic. There was no realtor on, so realtor's transaction for the Minnesota property, and then $25,000 for the Arkansas property after realtor fees and all that kind of stuff. So that's the big needles that moved for us. And obviously we had $160,000 other in revenue. Some were smaller cash sales, obviously our terms income and stuff like that. So our land expenses in December was a total of $134,000. So again, this is staff, partner payouts, credit card bills, stuff like that. And so, if you look at that, some of the largest charges we had, $14,000, was a partner payout to somebody. We had a whole bunch of staff costs and stuff like that. We had $25,000 credit card bill, which the credit card bills were starting to come down, which is exciting. And that was really, it just all adds up over time. A bunch of other, $1,000 here, $2,000 here, $4,000 there, blah, 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 blah. So that was our core expenses, if you will. We did buy $103,000 of land last month. Now, note here, part of what I include in cash flow is sometimes, quite often, we send money to title and then we end up getting reimbursed by a partner later. So we had $103,000 of land purchases, but I also got deposits of $87,000 from other folks, meaning that we put $16,000 of money ourselves into equity in the properties that we purchased. So that was really, really interesting last month. So we had some nice purchases, obviously, that happened, and then some partner dollars to offset some of that, but not all of it. Now, another thing to note here is debt servicing, which this, for me, is paying back hard money lenders or bank dollars or lines of credit or whatever. So, for example, here, this was a personal loan I got out from Citibank. Originally, I think it was $21,000. I think we're down to $6,000 or something now. So within a year of this paying off, and it's only like a 6 or 7% interest rate. So fantastic interest rate. This is a 0% interest rate credit card where I do a transfer balance back and forth with another line of credit, pay it off in a year, get it done. It's like a 5% interest rate for that guy. So you can see, in some cases, I have some monthly payments here where the interest rate is pretty stinking cheap. Here we have a Wells Fargo line of credit. I think we're at $90,000 out of $100K right now there. So I'm paying $2,500 a month towards that. So that helps to get that down over time. And this is the credit line that I switch back and forth with those 0% interest rate ones. Some small stuff here. The big guys here, Amex, so we have a credit line through Amex, which we amortize those loans over 1 or 2 years. You can see we're paying $8,000 a month. I think our credit limit's like $150,000, and I think we're currently tapped $80,000. So I have $70,000 I haven't tapped. I have some other credit lines that I really want to pay off, so I'm trying to reserve that to potentially pay back some of those other lenders. So I'm trying not to draw from that and instead get more equity money here these next few months from folks. So it's a pretty substantial payment. You add up all of the little guys that we're talking about. We're probably at about $18,000 a month. It's kind of our normal debt servicing, which of course this is like half of that total. You'll notice here we have a total of about $60,000 in hard money loans we paid. So that Minnesota property I was talking about earlier that we had the $80,000 revenue, well, here I'm paying back those hard money loans on those guys. I also had a property that didn't sell, but unfortunately it hasn't sold. And so I'm not wanting to keep a hard money loan on there forever. We had excess money, and I was like, we got to pay this sucker back. It's been a year. We've lowered the price several times. We're going to have to lower it again. I don't want to keep paying more and more interest on an asset that's essentially depreciated over what we thought it was worth in the last year. And so we paid that guy off too. So I try to, anytime that we're identifying properties that are longer than a year, which certainly has happened in the last year. Some stuff is just hanging out there. I would say in general, we're probably looking at 8 months to 15 months is a lot of our hold time currently. And I certainly don't want to go past a year with keeping debt on to individual properties. So certainly there could be times where I can't do that. The vast majority of the time I can. And so that's really what happened, and gives you really good insight into our business, how I'm thinking about cash flow, how I'm managing it. And in 2026, the hope is that we're going to have less of that overhead as we're not mailing for the next few months. We're focusing on market stuff. We're focusing on messy title, all of which doesn't cost marketing dollars, but does cost manpower, which we have baked into it. So really utilizing our manpower to make deals as well as follow-ups. We have like 4,000 follow-ups to do with just buy-side people, let alone sell-side people that we're developing relationships with as well. And so, my friends, this is the cash flow report for, you can call it this quarter. Really, it was the whole year of 2025. I would welcome questions. Certainly, there's probably some things I will keep closer to the vest, but generally, I'm a very open book. So I would welcome your questions, and I would love to hear from you. How do you think about this? How do you think about cash flow? What are things that you're doing that might be helpful that all of us can learn from? And I would love to know as well from you, is this interesting? What would be helpful and unique that is like, man, I would always love to know this about someone else's land business. So let me know in the comments or send me an email or a text or whatever. I'd love to hear from you, hear what you're thinking, hear how you're managing your business. And most of all, I hope this gives you insight and thoughts about stuff. If nothing else, maybe it's just interesting. So thanks again, everybody. We'll talk to you next time. Take care.
All right, well, that wraps up today's episode. If this was helpful, don't just let it live in your head. Take one idea from today and actually put it in practice. That, my friends, is where the real progress happens. And if you want to check out and keep the conversation going with people, you want to check out a bunch of free resources and talk about the challenges we all go through, please come and check out our Leadership in Land community on Skool. We got bonus content, real discussions, and a free leadership course. No hype required at all. Check out leadershipinland.com or go to Skool, Skool.com/leadershipinland. Appreciate you being here. Talk soon.